On this week's Vero Beach Social Media Pop-Up Podcast, we talk to the creative wizard over at Walking Tree Brewery. We talk all things beer, including why you need to make a visit over to the brewery. Give it a listen. You're going to love it. I guarantee it. Here we go. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Vero Beach Social Media Pop-Up Podcast, or should I say webcast.
Yeah.
I'm here with Brooke Malone, the creative wizard at Walking Tree Brewery, and we're here at Kilted Mermaid, right downtown. And thank you, Rick and Linda, for letting us shoot here. But Brooke, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. The first thing I want to bring up, because we're talking about a brewery and a bar, is what are we drinking here? What was this, a Ricciato or something?
So it is a Verdicchio from Italy.
Okay, Verdicchio.
Italiano.
All right, you can get that here.
Verdicchio.
Yeah. But you can also get the straw hat from Walking Tree.
Yeah, you can.
Right here.
Yeah.
I killed it. Awesome. And it tastes great. I'm a light beer drinker, so that works. So, cheers.
Cheers.
All right. So let's start this thing off the right way with a sip. All right. So Walking Tree Brewery. You know, it's funny. I just got a memory on my Facebook feed yesterday, the day before, from when I came and pulled headless nails out of wood from a reclaimed house that is somewhere up around the doors.
Did you really?
Yeah,
Were you on one of those teams?
Yeah, but I want to talk about how long you guys have been in business. How long? So let's talk about the beginning of Walking Tree.
So we just celebrated our 6th anniversary.
Okay.
Our anniversary shindig was on July 26th this year. We probably had 4,000 or 5,000 people come through the door that day. We normally shut down the street and throw a big street party.
All right.
So it was wonderful. Did I say 6th?
You said 6th.
Yeah, I'm prepping for my 6th. I just put my 6th. It was my 5th. I just put my 6th on the calendar today. It's July 16th. Hey. So yeah.
All right.
It was the 5th anniversary.
So 2016 is when you opened up.
Correct.
I remember opening day, the very first day, it was, 478 degrees outside. And you guys were packed. And It seems like you were packed year in and year out. If you have not been to Walking Tree, it's in a massive building. Let's talk about the building a little bit. You guys have been in there 5 years. You guys took a building that's very old, that had a million businesses in there, and you had to really renovate it. Let's talk about that. So what was in there before Walking Tree? So
it sat empty for a handful of years. The property is owned by the city of Vero Beach. It sits on the Federal Aviation's property, the land. It has been empty for a substantial amount of time. I think it was about 7 years before we got our hands on it. Brandt's Appliance was there for years on one side, and then Allied Roofing Supply was on the other side. It had been split down the middle with a firewall from the east and west direction. We actually pulled 70,000 pounds of drywall out of there.
70,000 pounds of drywall?
Yeah.
Wow.
To open that space up. And we had to retrofit the center columns and replace them with the steel beams to kind of save the building. It was starting to kind of cave in on itself. But the ceiling or the roof is 1945 original. It is concrete interlocking panels that really just needed to be propped back up because the Florida sun bakes the tar into the cracks. So it almost kind of liquefies a little bit, as it gets hot. And once you put it back up, everything just kind of sealed back together. They used to make things great back then. That's
crazy. So from my understanding, this building was used as storage back during World War II, right?
It was built. If you walk in from the east loading dock through the double roll-up doors and you look on the first truss up high, you can see a stamp on it, a military stamp. It's 10-10-45, which was when the trusses were officially stamped by an engineer, a military engineer. They are Douglas fir. So that means the wood came all the way from the West Coast. It would have been from, British Columbia, Oregon, Washington State, and that's still all original. So it was used as a supply warehouse for the naval station that was here, and parts and pieces for a plane called the F-6 Hellcat, which was a single-man fighter.
Okay. So you've reclaimed a lot of things in there. I've seen some old bars in there with Dodger stuff on it. Yep. I've seen, again, we were pulling nails out of some old wood. It's a really eclectic place. It's pretty cool. I mean, kind of similar to Gilded Mermaid. When I look around here, it's an eclectic place. But talk about the history of Vero Beach and the things. Again, you've got a bar there that's probably 20 feet long. It's got all sorts of Dodger stuff in there. What all do you have in there?
So this is not a license for anyone to come drop off things, but it took us almost 3.5 years to get the doors open when we signed a lease and started construction. We did it all DIY. So we didn't have a whole lot of extra funds to drop to get a contractor to come in and do all the work for us. That's why you guys have memories of coming in and pulling nails for pizza.
That's right. Pizza and beer. I mean, we'll work for beer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Pizza and beer. People still will. We have a family that came and dropped off the old bar from Duke Snyder's bar, which is now Mulligan's at the Holiday Inn. And so that is a piece of the old bar that was there. And Duke Snyder was a Dodger. Mm-hmm. And when he retired here, he opened his bar. We have the beer that we've named after him. And it's got a bunch of vintage baseball cards in it. My dad comes through and says, "Oh my gosh, do you know what that card's worth today?" And I'm like, "Well, Dad, if you can get it out of the epoxy, it's yours." There's actually a card in there. If you hunt it down, you can find Bill Murray, like the actor. I don't know. I'm not into the sports ball, but he's in there. And then we have our Cypress Table, which is a piece of sinker cypress that is basically permanently on loan to us from the Holman family that I found at the back of the Sunjet Center during an event. I won't tell you why I was being nosy back there, but I just came across this giant tarp with something underneath it and pulled it open and saw this piece of wood, and we were immediately on it. And although he said we couldn't have it, it could stay with us indefinitely. And it had been in the family for 3 generations. I guess his great-grandfather had asked Mr. Holman to never cut it. And so we pulled that thing up. It's like 24 or 26 feet long.
That's the long table by the restrooms,
It
right?
is,
Okay.
yeah, 26 feet long, 4 inches thick, solid piece of old growth sinker cypress.
How did you get it from the airport over? I mean, I know that you guys are near the airport.
Yeah.
You still got to get it across the street.
Well, we had to get it to a mill. and get it milled, and then spent a lot of time working on it. I mean, sinker cypress is filled with holes, right. So we had to do a lot of resin work on it, and yeah, it was a lot of people carrying a lot of geometry angles, but
you can't just throw that in the back of an F-150.
You can't just throw it in the back of a pickup truck.
Yeah,
no.
26 feet long. So that's the building. I mean, there's a lot of cool things in there. Let's talk about the brewing. How many tanks do you have? You walk in there and it's like massive. How many tanks are back there?
It's actually not.
It looks massive.
It does. We're at the beginning of where we want to be. We originally brought in 4 tanks with a Bright and a 3-vessel system. We now have added a whirlpool and 4 more tanks and 2 Bright tanks. So we're growing. We've expanded. We just went through our 3rd small expansion, adding a little bit here and a little bit there as we can afford it. But yeah, it's not where we want it to be. Eventually that whole section of concrete there will be filled to the ceiling. The next tanks will be 80 barrels, which are twice as large as the last ones we got, which are the big 40s.
Okay.
So we're excited.
You've also too many straw hats, I think.
You just started.
I know, I'm 3 sips in. You've also added a canning line.
We did.
That's pretty cool. Where can I buy cans of Straw Hat beer?
So right now you can get them here at Kilted.
I can get Straw Hat cans?
You cannot get get Straw Hat.
All right. Well,
you can't
I'll drink it off
you
tap,
can't get Straw Hat, but you should really try Baby Cakes. Baby Cakes just won GABF gold medal for the best oatmeal stout in the nation.
Wow.
Right?
All right, so I'm going to deter a little bit from the brewing. Let's talk about this. How do you win an award for the best oatmeal stout in the nation?
By being amazing.
Well, obviously, but who awards that? Who determines that?
So
How's that work?
The Great American Beer Festival, I can't even tell you how long it's been around. It's been around for quite a while. It's normally in conjunction with the Craft Brewers Conference. And CBC is held in rotation through a number of large cities throughout the nation every year. It's basically a big beer festival, but it's also a great time to see vendors. I've never seen a trade show so large in my life, where everything that has anything to do with craft beer, you can buy it there. At the same time, they host these awards. And you sit and everyone brings their beers in and we watch all of our homies and allies and compatriots cheer each other on in, I don't know, 119 different categories, I think.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and this year it was really interesting because we had 4 submissions. We competed in IPA, which is, I mean, there were thousands of entries.
I was going to say IPA is the flavor of the month or flavor of the last few years.
It's been a couple of years. It's still one of our best sellers. But I think about these contests and think about being a judge. Right? If you were to sit and you're a BJCP judge and you are judging a beer style and you have to sit and drink it all day long, at what point can you even taste a difference anymore?
Are you swallowing it or are you just swishing it and spitting it out? Because after about the 3rd one, I'd be like, I don't know. They're all great.
So I learned about the swishing and spitting thing. I'd seen that at some wine tastings with Linda and from Kilted, and I didn't understand that. But now I know why.
Yeah, you'd be pretty fucked up if you just drank wine or beer all day, right?
Yeah. So I think the right thing to do is taste, swish, gargle, aerate, spit. I'm not a BJCP judge. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
But I can always maybe that will be my goal one day. But yeah, so you think about it through that perspective and realize that there's a portion of it that's a crapshoot, but I think even making it to the top tier and you get notes back, right? So even making it to that top tier means that you're just kicking ass.
Yeah, you're pretty good.
Right. And we made it to the top tier basically on all of our beers. But for Baby Cakes to come in with gold, which is really what got my husband and I convinced, actually I'll own this, it convinced me that this is what he needed to be doing for a living. He made Baby Cakes for me. It was kind of a copycat of a beer that I really enjoyed in craft beer. When I met him, I was 50 pounds lighter and drinking vodka and sodas. But
those two might have had something to do.
I'm trying to remember the first beer. He's like, "Well, do you like beer?" I'm like, "Don't like beer," but I kind of like Guinness. And so that's where we started, was drinking dark beers. And I found one from an awesome brewery up in Georgia. But it was really, really lactose heavy. And I'm like, I like this, but I don't want as much lactose in it. So he made Baby Cakes for me.
Wow.
And then just started winning awards and then started winning money with these contests. And I was like, ooh, you hate your job. You should do this. So that's kind of where it went. And here we are. Baby Cakes has won some state medals. It's gotten some national recognition. Actually, Florida took all 3 top medals for oatmeal stouts, which is crazy.
Which, I don't think of oatmeal stout in Florida. Yeah, I think of like a light ale or lager or something. I think of like Corona or something when I think of, East Coast, South Florida. But 3 awards, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
All 3.
So let's talk a little bit about Mike and the brewing. This is Mike is your husband. He's the head brewer, brewmaster.
Mm-hmm.
What do we call him? You're the creative wizard. Is he the brew wizard?
I think that creative wizard is a great way to say I take care of all the things that don't require bookkeeping.
Okay.
And brewing. So, and then he takes care of all the things that have to deal with finite numbers and making the beer.
All right.
We have a wonderful team. There are a lot of people that work directly for him and I that we couldn't survive without. But he is definitely the head brewer and operations manager and financial wizard.
All right.
He's handling all of those things. We call it wizardry because we don't know what we're doing, so it's magic.
So when did he start brewing beer?
He actually was brewing about a year before we met. So he started home brewing out of some cheap kettles with a buddy of his in like 2008 or 9.
Okay.
And then by the time I met him, he had started doing it a little more aggressively in his backyard.
Okay.
And when I actually met him, he had a batch that had gone bad that I think it wasn't bad. He was just learning some lessons. Excuse me. And had blown up or something had happened, but he had them stored in his closet on the carpet. And I remember that. But he's not one for failure.
Yeah.
So he immediately figured out why and what he was doing wrong, joined a homebrew club, started brewing, making some getting involved in some contests. And he's definitely got a mind for chemistry and a mind for science. and very, very mathematically meticulous.
We did a tour over there at Walking Tree. It was a journalist tour or something like that. And I don't know, a couple months ago. And he was speaking Chinese to me. I don't know what the hell he was talking about, but he was going on. And I didn't know what he was talking about, but it was evident that he knew what he was talking about. And I'm like, I'm just going to trust this guy. And the beer tastes good, and he seems to be doing a good job.
So you apparently were acting very interested because he's learned it's a little bit on the spectrum. I'm like, hey, babe, when people start, looking around a little bit, that's your sign to switch subjects. But if people are looking at him in eye contact, he will not stop.
I think I was just trying to figure out what words he was saying because they sounded like they were English, but I'd never heard them put together like that. So I'm not sure, but it was cool. It was really neat. And then he was talking about the different types of IPAs and how he brews this and how he brews that. And this one's got to go for this many days and that one's got to go for that many days and the wash. And I'm like, I don't know, man. This is some wild stuff here. And I could never do it in a million years, but I really appreciate what he does.
You totally could. Anyone can. It's just cooking.
Okay. So I can't do that either.
So. Oh, well, then, yeah, maybe you can't. It really is just cooking. And I'll tell you, we've been married for almost 12 years now, and the changes that I've seen in him just in the kitchen at our home since he's really mastered what he's doing in the brew house. The amount of tools and things, I can't even make a grilled cheese sandwich without him coming by with a temperature gauge and shooting it. That needs to be 6 degrees higher, But yeah, so he's what we call in the industry a purist. There's about a 50-50 split in the beer nerd community that really love the type of brewer that my husband is. And then there's another that love to have on the back burner the kind of beer that my husband makes, but they're really into trendy fads. Gotcha. They want things that have been hyper fruited and saturated with flavors, and people are doing all kinds of crazy adjuncts and weird things to them and blending. And Mike is very, very much. I want to stick with the core ingredients. I want to use a malt. I want to use a hop, and I want to use water, and I want to create a flavor profile just out of those 3 ingredients. And that is what beer is. There's the German purity law, Reingeburtstadt, I think it's called. Yeah. And it was put in place in, someone's Google me, I'm sure I'm wrong, it was 15th century, a long time ago in Germany. It had something to do with kings and queens and the government trying to separate wheat from barley so that the wheat could be used to make bread instead of beer, because there wasn't enough of the crop. People weren't eating; they were drinking instead. There wasn't enough of the crop to make bread.
So they made this rule,
this
or this
German purity law
okay.
that barley was the grain used in beer.
Okay. And
that hops and water, basically, and then your yeasts, which they didn't even understand then, were the only ingredients that go into beer.
And then wheat could be used for food, or
correct.
For bread.
And then wheat was used for food. So he's very much into these classic styles where the flavor profile changes dynamically based off of how that grain is roasted.
So it's
just
almost
like coffee.
Right. So it's almost like, all right, I'm going to take this, I'm going to stay in my lane, I'm going to work to perfection, right? Instead of, I'm going to try this, 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 and then kind of throwing mud at the wall and seeing what sticks, right? I mean, that's...
So I think that he would laugh and agree with you here, but that's not a cool thing to say in the brewing industry. There are people out there that are doing things like putting, Twix.
That's what I'm saying, is he would never do that.
And candied cereal into there. But they have people that line up around the block that will pay, $40 for a 6-pack or a 4-pack of these beers. That means you're running a good business, right? So I don't want to negate or say anything poor about our brothers and sisters in the industry that are doing those things. He just doesn't have that in him. He is literally, he's going to be so mad when he hears this. He owns 1 pair of shorts. They're all the same.
Gotcha.
He owns more than one.
No, I get it.
He owns lots of them.
It's
the exact same pair of shorts. And by the way, are you allowed to do shout outs or whatever? Because at Carhartt Company, you discontinued his shorts.
Carhartt jump on it.
This
We
is
need those shorts
a
made.
giant problem in my life. We're literally talking about altering pants right now so that his knife can be in the right spot. So, it's
Creature of habit.
very much efficiency master.
Right.
He likes it this way. It works this way. And until you prove him wrong, he's right. And it's worked for him. And he's open. People have proved him wrong a lot, and he adjusts.
Right.
But he finds what works well for him, and he does it really well. And it's made us a good team.
I want to go back to the brew fests. You were talking about how Baby Cakes won the oatmeal stout of the nation. Mm-hmm. We have a really cool brew fest here in Vero, Florida Craft Brew and Wing Fest.
We do.
In February. You guys are always a big part of that. I'm assuming, I shouldn't, I guess. I should have probably talked to you before this, but you guys, I'm assuming, will be
we are
in
totally
it.
on board.
Okay, great. Let's talk about what it's like to be a part of a brew fest when you're here at home as opposed to in Denver or wherever you have to go for the national awards.
This is one of the most fun events that we do every year. We look forward to it so much. And I think it's because when you show up at your home market and people are imbibing for a number of hours, the levity, the fun, the silly, the photos, it just gets ridiculous. Everyone's lighthearted and having a great time. There's an energy, and everyone knows who you are.
Right.
So, and then everyone. You're catching up with all of your friends.
And that was kind of what I was getting at is like all your friends, you go out
all
to
the breweries.
You go somewhere in another part of the country and you might know 5, 10 people, whoever you brought with you. But here, everybody loves Walking Tree. Everybody's been there. Everybody's heard of you. Everybody's seen it. It's like now you're partying with your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of them. And it's also other breweries. I've been in a number of industries in my life, some very, very professional, highly organized, intense, from the software industry to high-end construction. And they've always been uber competitive. I mean, it's a competitive industry. We are businesses that are independent of each other. But I have to say the hospitality industry, restaurants, bars, and then moving into the beer industry is probably one of the most camaraderie-filled industries I've ever seen in my life. And when you get to go hang out with your other brewery friends and buddies, it's a great time. We all love each other. I mean, by and large, the brewing industry is a giant group of friends.
Love it. Love it. Collaboration is the new competition. I've heard that before, and that's kind of very, very much true, I guess, in your
That's
industry.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I should steal that.
There you go.
Anyone out there, you should steal that.
Well, I don't know if you're stealing it. You just borrow it for a little bit.
Okay.
But anyhow, well, no, listen, I love Walking Tree. Again, I helped pull nails out of the original wood that's around the doors over there. I've been in there a million times. I think it's a really cool place.
Well,
really cool
thanks.
building. You guys brew great beer. You're expanding. I mean, you're talking about getting new tanks. Anything else you want to add to the future of Walking Tree? More tanks, more beers, more styles of beers, more
Yes.
all that.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
events.
Let's do all that.
You guys hold events somewhat often out there, right? I mean, I know your annual your anniversary, you always go wild. But
So the event space was not something that was on our business plan.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even look at that space and think that the nonprofits and the community organizations in this town would want to use our space the way that they have. It wasn't something we ever anticipated. Our vision statement is to be nationally recognized for crafting and sharing quality brands while staying community rooted. And we remind ourselves of that every day. And being active in the community and trying to make a space for people to participate in what was, in the days before Prohibition, a community spot around a beer was a place where, our nation's laws were hammered out. The independence of our country was hammered out. Years and years in probably nations worldwide.
Yeah.
People have sat at a public house over a beer and discussed the future of their lives, their homes, their businesses, their nations, their countries. And I think our objective is to give an open space that's fair, that's non-judgmental, where you can come be who you are, grab a pint, have any kind of conversation, you really want to have, be welcome. And then to see it cultivate into fundraisers and to see it turn into a place where, we're in a position now where we have to work on additional parking. in the city. We're actually working on that, and the city of Vero Beach has been wonderful making accommodations for this industry, which was new to them when we signed on, and changed an industrial space into a beverage, manufacturing facility. But we're growing, and we checked that block on nationally recognized. I think a gold medal nationally.
Baby cakes.
Yeah, go Baby Cakes. But crafting and sharing our community roots is something that all communities can get on board with.
You mentioned the kudos to the city of Vero Beach. You guys spearheaded a couple of law changes or a couple of rule changes or policy changes or something through the city?
Yeah, well, it was years ago when we changed the definition of an added definition of brewery onto the city, and we've just kind of helped with the source, the Dignity food trucks, changing the laws at planning and zoning for the city to allow food trucks finally in this city. Not that we were operating illegally or anything.
Sure. Right. No, I just think that it's cool that people think, when you say it's a bar or when you say it's a tap house, people think, I don't know, there might be a misconception that something's grungy or whatever. It's like, you guys are family oriented. I see families in there. I bring my kids there all the time. You can bring dogs there. I mean, you guys
can't bring dogs.
You can't bring dogs in.
No, that's a health department thing. We're not sure.
I've seen dogs maybe outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
people come, they don't realize it, because by and large, the brewery industry is very dog friendly, and we try to start out that way, but we have some things on the books in our county that.
Okay, scratch that. You can't bring dogs.
Sorry.
But you can bring your families.
We miss our dogs.
But and then you talk about legislative change. I mean, you guys aren't just brewing beer. I mean, you're I mean, this sounds crazy, but you're like changing lives. I mean, again, you're allowing families in. You're helping, like you said, with the food trucks. I mean, this is providing money in pockets to the food truck operators and things like that. I mean, it's not just a bar. I mean, it really is a core part of the community now.
Yeah, but a good pub and a good public house is always that way.
Yeah.
It should be that way.
And that's what I'm saying, is you guys are changing that misconception. You guys, and again, people have that misconception just because they've never been there.
You're going to make me cry.
No, I think you guys are doing a wonderful job. I really, really love what you guys have done. Again, I think that you've got a very bright future. The fact that I can go buy a walking tree in a can now.
Yeah, Publix.
Oh, man.
You can get them at Publix. You can get them at Total Wine. You can get them at a bunch of specialty places. Some of the smaller places. Kilted Mermaid's got, if you reach over there, right behind you.
Oh, man. We have a national
Kilted
winner
Mermaid's got,
yeah. Oh, look at this.
Baby Cakes.
I don't know which. There you go.
Baby Cakes
Andy, you're
oatmeal
going to have to
stout.
add it to that camera.
There it is.
Or that one.
That's the best stout in the nation.
Which one we're on. But, yeah. Look at that.
And we appreciate it. Kilted Mermaid.
All from out of a garage.
Kilted Mermaid has been one of our number one craft accounts since we opened. And I have to tell you a story. So Mike and I started a business plan for this brewery in 2012, maybe 11, end of 11. It took us a year to figure out how we were going to do this and find some people to get on our team. And then, it was going to be, hey, we found this. We'll be open in a year and a half. 3.5 years later, Mike and I are selling artwork, in the alley here at this restaurant, on the side of the road, at different alley events, just trying to make things happen. But we can remember when we had a pretty significant SBA delay, government. That's what we're doing.
Yep.
It's a small business loan. And we had a pretty significant business delay that actually one of our senators here in this state, through some friends that we met opening a brewery, helped get pushed down the table because it was sitting in Washington, D.C. And I remember us sitting right at the corner of this bar. I am in tears. I think we had like $3,000 left in the bank. That was it. And it was, are we going to make it? And we had devoted everything that we have. And Linda and Rick, God bless them. They're like, here, this drink's on us. Can't even tell you how many times they're like, it's okay, here, have a glass of wine. They really got us through because they'd lived this life once before.
Right.
They'd opened their own place. They'd done this. They had the business smarts and the know-how and had walked us and held us through the you're gonna make it. And then between our business partners and this community, the fact that we're where we're at, I still just don't. I look at it sometimes and I'm like, wow.
I always say good
Thanks.
good businesses find a way to stay in business. And I think you guys have done a great job.
Oh, sweet.
And big shout out to Rick and Linda again for letting us record here and for all the help apparently that they've given you guys. It's amazing.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, that's all I had. I wanted to talk about the brewery. I wanted to talk about the past, the present, and the future, and all the great things that you guys are doing. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, you almost finished your whole beer.
Almost. Yeah, half an hour. That's about my pace.
Not
one
so
every
bad.
half hour. Yeah.
Not so bad.
I'll be having another one after this is over.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Oh, you're welcome. We actually recorded a podcast at your place a while back with Rob McCallum, a realtor with Exit Right Realty. So
that's
thank you
right.
guys for letting us do that there. And
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Just thank you all for being a great public house to have conversations and for coming here and having this conversation with me.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
Thanks, and stay rooted out there.
Yeah, I like that too. Stay
Yeah.
rooted. Awesome. Well, that's going to do it from us. And Brooke, thank you very much. Creative Wizard, Walking Tree Brewery.
Cheers.